The Tomaquag series, Quarantine Creatives. We're really excited to have you here this evening. We've been enjoying this series all fall, thinking about how COVID-19 had changed our world for us and how we've all moved forward in new and different ways. And this series is an example of that. This program is part of Tomaquag's Indigenous Empowerment Network, and it's committed to uplifting Native people, and that includes supporting the artists we collaborate with, respect, love, and admire. Through this series, we're checking in with Native artists to celebrate the diversity, creativity, and ingenuity of Indigenous arts. Thank you for joining us today for this virtual discussion made possible thanks to funding from the United Way, the Rhode Island State Council on the Arts, the Rhode Island Council for the Humanities, and the New England Foundation for the Arts, and people like you. You too can support programs like this by making a tax-deductible donation to Tomaquag Museum. The links are in the chat box. Just a quick reminder before we get started, please make sure that you are on mute. We will have time to take your questions at the end of the interview, so please use the chat box to type in your questions or comments, and we'll go through them as we receive them. Use your reaction buttons to let us see your enthusiasm. And if you're having any technical trouble, use the chat box and private message Tomaquag Tech for assistance. Before we begin, I just want to take a minute to introduce myself and do a land acknowledgement in my language. You can acknowledge the land you are on. If you know the nation, put it in the chat. And if not, use the tool that the Tomaquag Tech will put in the chat, nativeland.ca. Askawee Kwasin, Natasuis Makasini Pashao at Nahai Gansek, Natasuis Loren Spears at English at Nin Nahai Gansek Nahantik, Kanupiam at Aki at Nahai Gansek. So hello, my traditional name is Makasini Pashao, and most people know that I'm Loren Spears and the Executive Director of Tomaquag Museum, and I'm Narragansett Niantic. Welcome to the homeland of the Narragansett people. And next, I would like to introduce our artist this evening. I'm hoping that she's going to show her video now and unmute herself so that she can be seen.
I believe I am unmuted from here.
There we go. And so I would like to introduce Denise Silva Dennis. Denise's native name is Weetamoo. She's Arrow Clan, she's Shinnecock and Hassanamisco. She is a lifelong resident of the Shinnecock Indian Reservation in Southampton, Long Island, New York. Denise is a beadwork artist, painter, and a multimedia artist, which you'll learn more about her work tonight. She's also a retired art teacher from over 20 years in the Southampton Public Schools. So please join me in welcoming our featured artist tonight, Denise Silva Dennis. And you can use your reactions to clap for her.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. And I'm so honored to be here as part of the Quarantine Creatives, where you've highlighted so many Native American women. I think that's just so awesome. And I would also like to do a little, my daughter actually taught me how to do my own greeting. She's my teacher when it comes to the language. So I'm going to say, Akwe, Nitampak, Denise Kwa Widamo, Natusuis, Silva Dennis, Nichapayuank, Shinnecock Hassanamisco Nipmunk, Nicha Shai Yuank, Shinnecock Nitap. So I said, hello, friends. And my first name goes by either Denise, or some people call me Weetamoo in my relations. And Silva Dennis is my last name. And my nations are Shinnecock and Hassanamisco Nipmunk. And I live on Shinnecock. Okay.
Well, that was wonderful.
Thank you.
It's nice to have the land acknowledgement in both places, and hopefully our visitors are chatting away. If they know whose homeland they occupy, they can add that to the chat.
Okay.
So in your opening, you did such a beautiful job of kind of grounding us in who you are as Hassanamisco, Nipmuc, and Shinnecock, and that you live in Shinnecock. So I thought the first question would be really nice to share with us your background and how you became an artist. And you can feel free to share your screen whenever you feel you're ready to do so.
Okay, let me get it going here for you. Right, so yes, as I said, Denise Silva Dennis, and then Weedamo, and then my clan is the Silva Arrow. And my focus, as far as art goes, is visual and beadwork art. I still, even though I'm retired, I'm still teaching. And I'm an activist also. And instead of saying his story, because we always hear about his story, right? History. So I thought, well, I'm a her story conveyor. And that's a little contact area on the bottom, Denise Silva Dennis, for my website. Um, but to give you a little bit more of my background, I've been married to Avery Dennis Jr. of the Shinnecock Eagle Eye Clan for 38 years, and together we're proud parents of 2 adult children, Kelly Dennis Esquire and artist Jeremy Dennis. And I just love to being here. I love sharing my history and culture with all people, because it's not really written in you don't hear about it in the books when you're a child growing up. So there has to be other ways to learn. So it's such a pleasure to be here tonight. And thank you, Loren and the Tamaqua Museum for having me share, down south of you, because you guys are up there, up north of us. So we're down here on Long Island. Before I get all the way into my own art, I wanted to honor and acknowledge and remember through traditions and strength, and to say to Bootne. I have these words because I want to reflect on loved ones who have passed on. And here is a picture from 1965. It's at the Hassanamisco Powwow in Grafton, Massachusetts. My 2 parents are in the middle, Princess Silva Arrow and Chief Silva Arrow. And to the left of my mother is Zara Cisco, or Princess Whiteflower. And she was the sunk squaw of Hassanamisco. And to her, all the way to the right, next to my father, is actually Princess Redwing, and Princess Redwing is the founder of the Tamaqua Museum. So it's so interesting how we all come back into a circle again. And if it weren't for people like them, I wouldn't be who I am. You wouldn't be there at the Tamaqua Museum. So it's just so nice to be in the Spotlight series, because we really, need to spotlight, and we need to keep the traditions going, whether it's Narragansett or Hassanamisco or Shinnecock, or all the other tribes, Wampanoag, in between, Unkachog, Matinecock, Montaukett. We have legacies, and it's up to us now to be the voices. I was on a presentation last night, and that's what Tecumseh Caesar had said, we are the voices of our ancestors, and we have to keep everything going, because they fought so hard to keep us going, and to keep our native indigenous lifeways going as well. And for those of you who have never in your life heard about Hassanamisco, or maybe you never heard about Shinnecock, Hassanamisco is just north of Narragansett territory, near Wampanoag territory as well, not far from Boston. The people where my reservation is up there are near water. So they had canoe ways through different creeks and streams. And actually there is a lake there called Lake Ripple, and the ancient burial grounds in Grafton overlook that area from the Cisco line, the traditional line of people who lived on that reservation. And it goes back in time. What happened to us, we only have a fraction of our reservation, but that is our ancestral land. That is where we have always been. And then down there on Shinnecock, we are on a peninsula, almost all the way surrounded by water. It's beautiful. The ocean's there. Shinnecock Bay is on the other side. Headed Creek is on the other. The Atlantic Ocean is just over the dunes at what we call the point on the reservation. And there are many, many, many more other tribes. I just don't have them listed. I just chose this particular map so I could kind of highlight exactly where I'm from. How my mother and my father got together, with him up north and my mother in the south, I'll never know, but they did. I think it happened during wartime anyway. So that's a whole nother story for another time. So this is a marker at Hassanamisco. These 4½ acres have never belonged to the white man, having been set aside in 1728 as an Indian reservation by the 40 proprietors who purchased a praying Indian town of Hassanamisset. Some people go by saying, I say Hassanamisco, but it can also be referred to Hassanamisset. And this is a 1962 powwow there in Grafton. And that's when it was called the Hassanamisco powwow. It wasn't called Nipmuc Nation. It was called Hassanamisco powwow. And most of the people in that picture to the left are my family members, my mom, dad, my sisters, my brother, to one of my brothers to the left, another brother to the far end, my eldest brother, and another brother to the back. So we have a big family. Zara is in the front. She's holding the shield. And also someone from Narragansett, Chief Stronghorse, who I remember very well. And I'm the little baby, and Princess Winona is holding me. And I think she may have been Narragansett too. I don't know. I was a baby when she was holding me, so I'm not really sure. And then here's a marker. We don't even have this marker anymore at Shinnecock. We used to, where it says the remainder of the tribe is self-governing and retains ancient fishing and hunting rights. I think probably the state of New York probably knocked down that marker because that's one of the things that we're fighting for here in Shinnecock is our ancient fishing and hunting rights. And there it is right there for New York State. They printed it. Do they go by it? Not always. The photo to the right is my family, the 3 brothers and 3 sisters, or 2 sisters and me. And we all have our names. I'm Weedamo. Weedamo is always waving there on the pony. And my dad, Chief Silva Arrow, and my brother, Running Deer, and Little Fox, and Flaming Arrow. My sister, Teshane, is Pretty Face, and my sister, Mishanuk, and that means Morning Star, and then my mom, Princess Silva Arrow. Now, some people think, how did you become an artist? Or, when did you become an artist or whatever? But I was born an artist. I just knew, even before I could even hold a pencil or just looking at books, I just knew that as soon as I could get a hold of a book, that I could draw. I can't explain it. That's all I knew. And I would be fascinated by the writing and my elder siblings that they had, because most of them were in high school already. And I was just like, I don't even think I was in kindergarten yet. If I didn't have anything to write with, I was naughty sometimes, and I'd do little pictures next to my bed at night with a crayon or something if I didn't have any papers. And then my auntie, she gifted me with some watercolors. And when I was in the elementary school, the kids would always say, oh, could you draw a picture of a dog or a picture of a person? So they would always give me things to do on our free time. And my parents also signed my sister, who's a little bit older than me, up to classes at the Parish Art Museum in Southampton. But in this photo, this is at Shinnecock Powwow, and actually a photographer from National Geographic took that photo. And this is a poster, In Beauty It Has Begun. And here with this, this was from, I believe, 1972. And it was a national art show for Native American children. And actually 2 of my pieces were submitted and accepted. And some of the stops were at the Metropolitan Museum of Art and the Smithsonian Institute, and it traveled for quite a number of years. It was funded by the Xerox Corporation. And here is one of the pictures that went in. It was actually an oil painting. It looks huge, I know, on the screen, but it's only 3 by 3. And has the oak branch frame, which I collected from around in my yard. And it's called Owl on a Branch. And this is the Shinnecock Native American Cultural Coalition. I just happen to be right in the middle of that picture. And here we are at the exhibit at the Metropolitan Museum of Art, celebrating the opening of In Beauty It Has Begun. And I highlighted, if you see those little red stars, above some of the founding members of SNAC, Because if it weren't for them, if they hadn't dedicated their time working with all, the teenagers and the young people at the time, I would not have really developed my art the way I did, because I wouldn't have had the supplies or the resources or the encouragement. So I think it's important to acknowledge, there's my brother-in-law, he's passed on, and my sister, and I have another sister-in-law there, and Fred Best, so Skip and Pat and Diane and Fred, not pictured, but who should be equally acknowledged, are two other people who passed on, and that's Grace Best Smith and also Reginald Gardner. And the photo credit is by Wickham Hunter. I like to give everybody credit. When I think of inspirations or what influenced me, I not only think of culture, I also think of the history, something that we learned from our historian, Princess Noah Donna. And I think of my identity, as I showed you different pictures of my family, and also the natural surroundings. Did you have anything that you wanted to jump in there and just keep talking away?
Well, I was going to ask you the question, but then you jumped right into the question already, which was, how does your culture influence your art?
Yes. And with that, it's just not, for me anyway, in particular, it's not just culture. It's just so many things, being immersed in two different nations, what we call it, is just, you can't help but being influenced by the regalia, by the beads, by, different, textiles that we use, of feathers, just things in nature. So here again, identity is so strong and tenacious. We come from some tenacious people, especially anybody who's from the East Coast of this country. To still be here, to be able to talk, about your culture, you really somebody had to hold on tight. So we come from some strong people. So in this one, in identity, in that area, this is a picture of my daughter when she was not even a year old yet. Toba Tucker actually took this photo of her, Kelly. And there's the beadwork to the right that goes with that picture. And so I made her a crown, and then I made her a little belt, and it's always with the floral designs. And then as she got older, I added a section for her neck that hangs down here. And then it's made with rabbit fur and some very soft deer skin.
Stunning.
Thank you. And then I did not make 3 papoose carriers. I made 1, but I just figured I would put all 3 images there, and that's my son. And, my children, they're all grown now, so you can tell how old, these are. But I did this cradle board when I was in college, and I followed the same principle of having the floral design, the turtles as part of the creation story, and also the Shinnecock people are known as whalers, so I incorporated the whale in there as well, and all the blue symbolizes the water. And then the top is a crown that's based on the Shinnecock flag that we have, with the woman and the man. The man is smoking a clay tobacco pipe, and we have our turtle in the middle. There's canoeists in there, always by the water. I have a little bit of wampum around the sides. And actually, I didn't know exactly where to put this slide, and that's my sister and I, Darlene Troge, or Mishanuk. And I had to actually borrow my children's beadwork because I never have time to make it for myself. And we were actually, we were at a courthouse because I believe it had something to do with federal recognition, and we were just being delayed forever and ever and ever. So the Shinnecock tribe said, okay, everybody, we got to go up to the court, and we're going to sit in there and, let them look at us in our regalia. So my sister and I go marching up there with my other 2 sister-in-laws with all of our regalia on. We went in, they stopped my sister at the door because her headdress has 2 deer antlers. And they said, this is a weapon. You either take that off or you can't come in. And she's like, a weapon's part of my regalia. But, that's that whole cultural competency where people don't understand, she said, I'm not putting my tradition and who I am down, just to get into this courtroom. So that was something that I will always remember with my sister. And then identity, here's a painting that I did of a medicine person. And when I look at this painting now, I believe I was in college when I did this painting of gathering medicine, but now I connect it to my husband's family because their family, well, I'm a Kellis, but the other section of the Kellis line were medicine people, and they actually went and gathered medicinal plants and did all types of work in the woods. Those traditions were handed down. There's a story that my mother-in-law told me about her grandmother babysitting for one of her babies, and the baby had a tummy ache. So it was the great grandma who was babysitting, and so my mother-in-law went to work. And then when she came back, her grandmother said, "Oh, well, I gave the baby some medicine plants. I boiled them up." And so my mother-in-law, she was like horrified, like, "What did you do? What did you do?" But whatever those medicine plants were that she gave and prepared cured that baby, and the baby was fine and still is alive and well today. So, and that's what all these pharmaceuticals, they charge us all this money to get medicine, and so much of it is based on indigenous knowledge. So that's a nod to the native medicine people. This is actually to the left. This is a man. He was my uncle through my husband's side, Jake Kellis, and he was also known as a medicine man. And what he has in his hand are scrub brushes. And he used to go at a certain time, I believe it was in the spring, or I didn't even know exactly because I'm not a carver, but it had to be after all the sap went through a certain type of oak tree. I think it was maybe white oak. So next to him, there's a little wampum shell as well. And he had a lot of the knowledge that he learned from his mother, and it all went back in time, speaking of the medicine people. And then to the right, there's a member of the tribe that I was commissioned to paint. And these are both jackets, actually. And for people, they're not just a jacket to put on. Once I do the image of their loved one who has passed on, it's like a part of their spirit is always with them. So, that really means a lot to me and a lot to them when I do these. It's not just a painting at all to them or to me.
That's beautiful sentiment for sure. They're stunning.
Thank you. So here's another section of what influences me, culture and history. This is from a powwow program that I had done several years ago. Here it is here, the Shinnecock Labor Day weekend powwow. I was asked to do the front and back covers. So I was like, what is Shinnecock all about? And Shinnecock is about whaling and the wigwam or wickiups and, the corn mothers there who are working on the corn. And it's about the wampum and the turtles. So I try to incorporate all those things on the left-hand side and how everybody's working together for the common good. And everyone is healthy and everyone takes care of each other. And wouldn't it be nice if things were still, that way all over? And then I did on the back cover, I did the 4 sacred colors. The white is for the north, the yellow is for the east, the black is for the south, and the red is for the west. And then for Shinnecock, again, I incorporated the back of the tail of the whale and the white-tailed deer and turtles. Those are all things that you'll see if you ever walk around on Shinnecock in the woods. You can still find all those things and more. So from that drawing that I had done, it kind of goes together that year. I was finishing up a mural on the reservation, and it has the same elements in there with, to the left is the corn mother with the baby, planting the corn, beans, and squash. Near the water, seaweed would actually be used as insulation, and some of the fish, whatever was left over from the fish that wasn't edible would go down into the ground for fertilizer. The medicine wheel is there. And then there's an image there near the third window, or you could say the first window on the left, and that's the Circassian. And that was an incident, a terrible tragedy actually, that happened in 1876 in December. And we lost 10 who we call heroes from the tribe, from the Bunn and the Cuffey and Kellis and Lee and Walker families. They were trying to get some supplies off of a ship. And they knew, because, you know, we've been here for over 10,000 years, they knew that the hurricane or whatever nor'eastern was coming, they could tell, and they wanted to get off the ship. And that captain said, no, and they'd been working on this ship trying to get these supplies off. They said, no, if you get off that ship now, we're not going to pay you for all the work that you've been doing. And then they cut the line, you know, because they were just going to leave. One man did leave from that ship. But what happened after that is, you know, all the newspapers said, well, that was the end of all the Shinnecocks. They died. And that wasn't the end of all the Shinnecocks, because they left behind, you know, wives and many, many children. So it was just a way for the media to say it. Every time you turn around, they say, that's the end of the Shinnecock people. And then here's a close-up. This is when it was a newly done painting, when we first worked on it. It's almost 30 years old now, so it needs refurbishing there.
Thank you for that close-up. It's beautiful.
Oh, you're welcome. And then also to go along with the whole culture is the Nish Matukusuwag, the three sisters. You know, that's part of our story, and so many of the native people's story in the region who grow the corn, beans, and squash as our staple there. And actually I made these little sock puppets for our preschool, the Winnichinuk preschool, to do a presentation with the children there. But now I use it and I incorporate it for storytelling with John Germain Library. That's a library in the next town over. When I'm telling a story about, I think it was gardening over the summer, and I was doing it through Zoom. So I said, oh, I'm going to bring in a little bit about the Shinnecock heritage there, so that people have an opportunity to learn that, you know, we all have a connection. And then here's just some little dolls that I worked on there. And, you know, just it's fun to do something like that, because that way, you know, regalia takes so long to do, and this takes so long to do, the way I do all that beadwork on there. But everybody has their own little character. And when I make them for people, they, you know, I ask them about, oh, what color do you want? And, you know, I think I made the pink one with the girl and the boy with the cowboy hat from my in-laws. And my father-in-law always used to like to wear a cowboy hat. So I made that one for him to reflect some of the things that he enjoys. And then our natural surroundings. This is before the western section of our tribal beach. It's called Cuffey's Beach, before it was restored with some sand, because we had terrible erosion. I think it was after Hurricane Sandy that so many had eroded really bad, and even our cemetery had gotten flooded. So now it's been recouped. My sister actually worked with other people on a grant to write in order to get federal monies to get that beach built back up. So now there's some rocks and there's more dunes there. But growing up here, you know, it's a sacred place to be loved. It's beautiful, and it's even a habitat for so many different kinds of animals. And the animals that you'll find will be turtles. I have that little strawberry in the middle because that's part, and I know the Tamaquag Museum and the Shinnecock people, I know we have that same strawberry Thanksgiving theme going on that's been passed down. So I incorporated that onto the little back of the turtle. And then to the right, I have a little deer that's on the back of a jacket as well. And with that one, I actually had a baby deer when I was a little girl. I raised that. I helped raise it. And so that jacket, you know, special to me. All the jackets are special to me. I don't know. I don't even know if I have a real favorite one. And then to the left, that's another piece. And that was actually featured this summer at the Tamaquag Museum. And so along with other indigenous people who had submitted entries about the strawberries and what the strawberries mean to you as far as art. And then the image on the right is a fox, a red fox. And that jacket actually was featured at the Pequot, the Mashantucket Pequot Museum. I know that they are fox people. So I thought, I think that they're influencing me to paint a fox on the back of that jacket. And then I've added, what's that?
Oh, beautiful.
Oh, okay. I thought you might have said something. Thank you. Yeah, I worked on some little booties, little moccasins, and then I'm featuring these because purple is such a color that so many people incorporate because of the quahog shell. So that's kind of like just a shout out as far as the quahog shell goes.
These are such amazing pieces to show how your culture influences your art, with the floral designs and the colors that connect to the land as you were showing us. I'm wondering if you can describe your artistic style and maybe take us through some of your creative process.
Oh, sure. Well, my artistic style as a visual artist is, realistic, and there are a lot of symbols that go along with it. And it's many times, as you've seen, it's based on culture and historical themes. I love to do portraits. I always have loved to do pictures of people and landscapes and animals, as you've seen earlier. When I'm working on a jacket, I just wanted to show you a little bit of how I start out. I interview the person who wants a jacket first. And I ask them, well, what would you like to have on there? Do you want a picture of an animal? Do you want a picture of a person? Or do you want a picture of a scene or a symbol? So in this particular one, it was in memory of someone. So I said, well, could you send me some pictures of, pictures of like whatever it is that reminds you of the person that you want to memorialize. So she sent me, that's Georgette Gigi, she sent me some pictures, and she said, also, could you incorporate a boat in there? So I did that. So I have like this whole planning board that inspire me, and I don't just take from one scene. I will just, take from whatever people send me. And sometimes I even go to the site where they've taken the picture, and then I'll take my own pictures. And then I stretch it out just like a canvas. I prepare it with gesso, and then I have to let that dry for a couple of days. And then I prepare it, with the drawing that I want to make. And I have to let, that get all set up, and I have to use some painter's tape that's there so I don't get anything on the rest of the jacket. And then, this is one of the pieces that ended up as the creative process. And that's just for painting. And then I kind of look at, other artists who do seascapes and landscapes, just to see, how did you make those rocks, and how did you splash the water, and what does the sand look like? And I'll just go, I'll go to the beach and I'll take pictures of the sand, or I'll look at sunsets and then incorporate it that way. And so this is in memory of a loved one, but it's symbolized in a way to show the landscape.
It's like you can touch those waves. It's really a beautiful image.
Thank you. One thing about when I do the wearable art, I've thought about, some of the earlier other pictures that I've done or paintings that I've done, they just end up inside of someone's home or wherever they end up. And nobody else gets to see it unless someone visits you. And now during the COVID, nobody's going to get to see much of anything right now unless you take a picture of it and send. So by having art on your back, it's like it's a conversation piece. It's a way to get out in the world. It doesn't just stay in one place. So and people really they take good care of it. And the other thing I never do is I never ever I don't repeat it. That's it. That is a painting. I'm not going to make another one. It's unique to you, and that's it.
So I'm wondering, as you continue on, if you've been showing us so much art, but I'm wondering if you have some favorite pieces that you might describe and tell us why they're important to you.
Okay, well, I think some of the earlier beadwork pieces, the crown and the baby pictures, those would have been my favorite of all art pieces as far as beadwork goes. But here's a favorite of mine that I love, and I call this Full Moon at Hetty Creek. And I actually asked my husband, that's his profile, like is the back of his, profile a little bit. That's him standing there. It's almost like a silhouette of him. I asked him to go stand by the water, and I was taking pictures of him. And then the girl to the right reminds me of my great niece, Isabel. And she has hair, she's cut it since, but at one point her hair went all the way down to just about her ankles. So I said, oh, let me just keep going with this hair. So here they are at full moon ceremony at Hetty Creek. And that's sometimes what the moon looks like around here on especially harvest time. This is another favorite of mine. And this is called a Cooper's Hawk. And the first time I decided to make paint jackets for Shinnecock Powwow was the first time that I showed this different medium, a different way of using fabric paint, because I had never used it before. I came up with the idea of doing the hawk. So I put it on a body frame, and it was, a nice day at the Labor Day weekend of powwow, a big, huge powwow where thousands of people come. And this woman came by, and, we have crowds and crowds of people. And she's like, oh, I really like this hawk. And she was like flitting around. And then she said to me, but what you're asking for is too much. And I said to her, well, you're actually in Southampton. You are on the Shinnecock Reservation. But if you just drive like a mile down the road from here, and there's an artist in town in the village of Southampton, you can be paying like $3,000 for that. So what I'm asking is not, much. I mean, I'm an artist. And it's an original. But that's the reaction that you sometimes get the very next. And then her husband was there, and he was ready to pay for the jacket. And she just huffed and puffed because she wanted me to go down on my price. And I'm like, no, I studied art, I'm an artist, and I want what I want. And if I don't get it, then, that's okay. I'll keep it. I'm happy to keep my artwork. The very next day, a woman comes, a different customer, and she said, I love this jacket. I have been walking all over the powwow grounds. And she said, I bought a certain amount of money with me, and if something struck me, that I would take it. She put that jacket on, and it fit her like a glove. And she didn't mince anything about how much it costs. She was just very happy. So it's interesting how you never know who's going to get it, but it was just like, it's almost like the art that I do, it chooses the people that it wants. It's just a weird, strange thing. And then here's another piece. Actually, this is my cousin who has this piece of the wampum. And sometimes people go and they touch it to see if it's actually wampum. They want to touch it. And this piece took me a long time to do. And actually, my cousin, Cookie, she had tried on the other jacket that just before powwow, because she wanted to get one of the jackets that I made. And the bird, just, it would not, didn't fit her right or anything. As soon as she tried this one on, it fit her. And it came alive with a story. You know, I just started interpreting her because of who she is, and you know how she believes in, you know, equality. And she was a principal at the time in our school in Southampton, and just, you know, treating people in the right manner. And those are all of things, you know, that the wampum, you know, could symbolize, you know, having an understanding of other people. And then it kind of went along with our tribe and how we have a tribal council, and then the eagle feather in the middle of it. So it just went exactly with her personality, and it fit her perfectly. So it was just one of those things that I just can't explain how things happen like that with art, but they just do at times.
You know, your piece there really ties into what I was thinking next. You know, how you were talking about, you know, equality and leadership skills and social justice issues and things like that. 2020 has been just the most tumultuous year. You know, people are dealing with COVID-19. There's no one that's not dealing with it in one way or the other. There's been all the different social justice issues. As Indigenous people, that's something we're always fighting for. But there's the Black Lives Matter, there's the missing and murdered Indigenous women, there's been the election, there's the census, there's thinking about women's rights, all of those kinds of things. I'm wondering if you could share how any social justice kind of topic has affected you in your work this year in particular, but maybe in general as well.
Yes, well, yes, social justice should probably be my middle name because I'm always, you know, protesting something or fighting for something here and there. So, you know, that definitely, I actually have activist art to show you. And because my daughter is an attorney, and also my niece, Tila, both attorneys who work together, they have been instrumental in getting me very active in helping with all kinds of, you know, social justice issues. As a matter of fact, we have a Graves Protection Warrior Society on Shinnecock, and this was before COVID. And for many years, like years and years, and, you know, decades, we have been fighting for a certain area of land near the reservation, where we have always been told by our parents and their parents and their parents' parents that our ancient graves of our people, you know, are buried there on Shinnecock Hills. And so, you know, we put together the Graves Warrior Society. That's been going for so many years with my cousin Rebecca, Jania, and Jennifer, and Margot, and Shane, and myself, and Bianca, and Jeremy, and we have really come together as our own alliance. Really, you know, we work with also Harry Wallace at Unkachog, and, you know, protecting our people. But, you know, when all these developers come out, they're digging up our bones, our blood, and, you know, our flesh of our people, and they say, well, it's unmarked. So, but it was marked at one time, because it was marked, you know, with a big rock, and then the rocks around the sides of it. So that's just a design that goes along with the art that I've done. And then at times I am out on the highway, on Montauk Highway. This was pre-COVID, 2019. And actually, Kelly and I had done that banner a while back. It says, when will we get our Shinnecock Hills back? And that's what our tribal historian, Princess Noah Donna, or Lois Marie Hunter, had always taught us growing up. She's, you know, passed away, you know, several decades ago. You know, when you all grow up, somebody has to go fight for those hills. So here's a section of us, you know, peacefully, you know, saying, you know, stop digging up our people. And in the town of Southampton, they just continually, you know, let this slide, because, you know, with COVID, this is how COVID has affected us. There's so many people who are coming out from New York City. They don't want to be in the city. They have abandoned the city, and they want to come out to the fresh air. They don't care if they're digging up people. so that they can have their big giant mansions. It used to be like second houses or third houses to them, but now, you know, they're all coming and staying, and we just don't want them in our ancestral burial grounds. And there's my cousin, she's the leader of our alliance, Rebecca Ginia, next to the flag there that her grandson is holding on one side of her. And as you can see, there's the local police. That's a Southampton town police officers, I believe. I don't think they're village, because I don't think a village has jurisdiction. It might be village, but they had to stand down because, you know, we have rights. And I'm standing there in the middle. I am like, well, I don't think anybody's going to bother me because I have this umbrella that has like the American flag on it. And if you could see the image on the top, it's actually a Native American. But I'm like, isn't that, you know, that's kind of interesting. There's Tila on the side, you know, holding up. So we go out there in any kind of weather. Right now, I think it was like at the end of October, this past month, the activists from Shinnecock were out on the highway. And we have so many people who help us, you know, all these different organizations who help us, progressive people from Long Island. We have so many friends, you know, they're at every single protest, and they just want to stand up for what's right. And people are tired of seeing, you know, how things are going, you know, downhill, and especially when it comes to people like Indigenous people and, you know, with Black Lives Matter as well. Here is some of the art that I created to go out there on the highway to purchase and protect and preserve. Were the voices of our great grandparents. You've taken everything, you know, you have to take the bones too. And it's been going on for 380 years. It's just mass desecration. And I know you brought up about the missing and murdered Indigenous women, and how, you know, we went on a walk through in Sag Harbor, and there's Kelly, my daughter Kelly, holding up the No More Sisters, No More Missing or Stolen Sisters. And we did the hand prints in paint. And then there's a sign behind her, and that's in our language, and it's about keeping families together. And that's about all the families who have been separated down at the border, and just defending the sacred. You know, people are sacred, water's sacred, the environment is sacred, and it needs to be respected. And again, you know, you see all those people behind us there walking with us. There's people walking in front of us. There's so many people from all walks of life who really want, you know, the future to be something other than it has been. This, as I was saying, the protests recently from October to Thanksgiving, or the day of mourning, the Warriors of the Sunrise is the name, and it's just like all the graves protectors people too as well. But what we did is we went to a section of, it's called West Woods, and it's still part of the reservation, and it was an economic development idea. Actually, Lance Gums was working on it when he was a trustee. My niece Tila was one of the attorneys who was working to get this monument up. And some people may have heard about this. I call it a monument. Some people call it a bulletin board. It's 40 feet high, and it's not bright lights. I believe it's called LED lights. And the whole idea of it is it's like a main through for to come towards Southampton. And the idea was to advertise, you know, all different kind of products on it, you know, different kind of cars or whatever. And the town of Southampton, you know, oh, we don't want that there, you know, we don't want it, and you don't have any right to put that there. But to us, I don't know if you've ever, I know everybody has seen this, but like, you know, in Jurassic Park where, you know, they first go into the park and you know that's Jurassic Park. So that's what it reminds me of. We haven't been able to get the second installment, and because it's all in litigation. So the Warriors of the Sunrise came up with the idea, that was Tila, to ask me to do this design, to show that we're there, that we're, like with the eagle feathers, and, we need people to support us there. Actually, this T-shirt, I just found out you can get it in different colors, but if you support us, it's just such a powerful message to have that, when we have people who are standing up for us. So, yeah. Let me see what else I have. Oh, okay. So this is a project, Ma's house. Now, this is my mother's house, and my father actually built it because he was a carpenter. And it's on Shinnecock. And over the last few years, it has gone into decay. Over the last 3 years, a little raccoon family, they were cute as can be, but no, you can't be in Ma's house. So my son, Jeremy, he was affected by COVID because he's an artist and he usually does residencies, and he couldn't continue with his residency program. So he came up with the idea of perhaps making Ma's house into an art space and a residency. And it is reflective of Black Lives Matter movement and other people of color. And, it goes by BIPOC, or BIPOC. And he wanted to make the house into a museum. And so he has been on his, trying to raise money in order to get the house made into a museum, and it will have his photographs in there, and it will feature other artists. He had a soft opening back in September. Everybody was outside. It was a beautiful day, and it was a work in progress because all, the floors had to be, fixed, and the walls, it's still a work in progress, but it's in memory of my mom. And that's why it's called Ma's house. And hopefully, other artists from all over the country, especially Black and Indigenous artists, will have a space where he will curate their work, invite them to do their work, to come to visit him, maybe spend a few days, or maybe have some shows that will be his residence as well. So it's, a reflection of the family, and it's a way that culture is being carried on, and it's a way to, think of all the suffering that has been going on with this whole Black Lives Movement and the missing Indigenous women as well. Yeah.
That's an amazing project. Be sure to share information with us as he's reaching out for artists, because we have a wide network where we can share that information and help him in any way that we can to promote the work that he's doing. That's really wonderful. I'm wondering if you can share what your future goals or projects are on the horizon.
Okay. Well, here I am at Shinnecock. When we had a powwow, we didn't have our powwow, this past September. And I also wanted to thank you, to Bootney, to the museum, for inviting me to participate. But I think my future goals, right now I'm working full-time as a prevention education specialist at an agency in East Hampton called The Retreat. And it's all about educating people about domestic violence before it occurs, or helping people, when it has occurred. I go into schools virtually. So I have been very busy doing that, but I would love a chance to get back into my art, because I have been neglecting it, and, art takes so much time. So I would like to have more time to actually do it. I will have time over the summer, though. I'll have a summer break. I would love to have time now, but that's just not possible. But one of the things that I turned 60 this year, I'm not ashamed to say my birthday, I'm a 1960s baby. And that kind of goes along with that question about activism, because I was born, I came up through the whole civil rights time, and when there was so many, assassinations, and Dr. King and the Kennedys. So I was little, but I remember all of that. And, having older brothers and sisters, you hear things, from them. And my eldest sister lived in Washington, D.C. So I would hear about, the dangerous riots there. And it's like, it seems like we are going back to the same thing with all of this, racial injustice. But you know, going back to my 60th birthday, my husband, who's been helping Jeremy with the Moz house every single day, you know, for months and months, you know, taking it apart and putting it all back together again. I said, for my 60th birthday, what do I want? What do I want? And I'm like, oh, I want a she shed. And in the she shed, I want to be able to do my art. So lo and behold, I do have a she shed that was built for my 60th birthday, and I have all these shelves in it, and I just have to get out there to start sitting there and actually having a time to sit there and focus on my art. It's purple to go. And I already have a name for it. It's called Weedamo's Wikia. So now that I've said it, I really have to make sure in 2020 that I'm out there doing the work. And you're gonna have to check up on me, Lorraine, and said, hey, Denise, are you doing some work?
We certainly will be checking up on you. While we're thinking about that, though, so that people might want to follow you as you're creating new works, where can the audience see and purchase your work?
Right now, you can get in touch with me at Weedamo. That's my Gmail, Weedamo at gmail.com. Also, I think in the beginning I put Denise Silva Dennis, and it will just come up. You just Google me, Denise Silva Dennis, and you'll see the jackets, couple of the jackets there. But as I said, right now I'm kind of inundated with the domestic violence abuse that's going on. And that's how COVID has affected people. There's a lot of violence and a lot of people are under stress, and you understand why. So, but I need to get to my art, and then I will be able to kind of
Well,
get out
people
there.
can check your website out. The Tamaquag Tech put all your information in the chat, so if people want to copy and paste that, they can keep up with your work. The work that you're doing on domestic violence is certainly of the most utmost at this time, we know, and we certainly send prayers to families that are struggling during this time because it's really hard. Those that don't have an outlet as beautiful as art sometimes don't know where to put that excess energy and the angst that we all feel during this time. So I thank you for sharing your art, your stories, your family and community, which just comes through in everything that you do. But I know we're running out of time, but I want to give at least 5 minutes or so for maybe the audience that might want to have some questions. If people have to pop off, they can, but if you have a few minutes, we can do some questions with folks.
Oh, sure. Did you want me to? I can stop sharing it. There you go.
Yes, please. Okay. Those that are on the program, if you'd like to unmute yourself and ask a question, you're welcome to do that. And you're welcome to make yourself visible as well, or just do it audio. So.
Yeah, don't be bashful out there. I recognize some of those faces.
It's always a little tricky on the tech to unmute yourself.
Okay. Yeah,
but I'll double check the chat too, because I did say that they could ask a question there. There's a comment from a good friend of mine from the Rhode Island Historic Preservation Historic Society. I think I just totally butchered that acronym, but it's Donna, and she just said, Denise, thank you so much for sharing your story, inspiration, and process in creating your art as well as your activism. I absolutely love all your art, especially your intricate beadwork. I look forward to following you and to see you in future art projects.
Oh, nice. Thank you. Thank you. That will give me.
Here's a question. Has teaching art had an impact on your own creations?
Oh, yes, yes. That's from Julia. Absolutely. Hi, Julia. Yes, it has. It actually made me a better, teacher. As far as teaching art, it made me a better artist, from having that background as well. Yeah, definitely. Because you learn so many other skills and resources and mediums. So yeah, teaching art had definitely an impact on my own creations, because you have to go back to the basics. I taught in elementary school and I taught in intermediate school and a little bit of high school. So I would have to kind of refresh my own memory, and that would make my skills, even better. Mhm.
That's wonderful. Any other questions out there? I know that first I want to comment to the group about the wonderful job they did on sharing their land acknowledgements in the chat. I really appreciate that. And I would also like everyone to thank Denise again for sharing with us today, and for all of you joining us. We had a wonderful group for our last Quarantine Creatives for 2020. I just have a couple of quick announcements before we go. I want to thank you all and remind you that this is our last one for this year, but we are in the process of finalizing our winter and spring virtual events, such as our upcoming author series, the book club that Silver Moon has been leading, and the Children's Hour will be reestablished in January as soon as Lindsay is more well from her health issue. I want to thank again our funders, the Rhode Island Council on the Humanities, the Rhode Island Council on the Arts, the United Way, and the New England Foundation for the Arts. Without them and donors like you, we could not do all what we've been doing, which has been just phenomenal. I thank you for that. You also can support Tamaqua Museum by getting ready for the holidays by shopping at our online store that was just created during this COVID outbreak. And it features I think we have about 30 Native artists that are partnered into our in-store museum store as well as the online store. So that's a great way to support our artists. You can also support Tamaqua Museum and artists who design things for our Redbubble page, all of which is in our chat. And as you're thinking about the holiday season, you can find unique, one-of-a-kind things, which is really great. I also just want to say thank you all so much. Winnie Nukan, have a good evening. And Winnie Nakomo, happy holidays, no matter what faith you are and how you enjoy this season of light and festivity. So I really hope to see you all virtually again, and hopefully in 2021 we'll get to see you in person and give lots of hugs, because I feel very hug deprived these days.
Yes.
Thank you, Denise, so much for your wonderful job tonight, sharing your stories. And for those that have a friend that wonder they're sad they missed it, we'll have it up on our YouTube page in a few days.
Really quick, can we ask Tecumseh wants to know, what is something you want to make that you haven't yet? I know for me it's a jacket. You haven't painted me a jacket.
Okay, well, I was looking at that, what Tecumseh put up there, and that's such a hard, thing to decide what to make. I have to dream it. It's going to have to come to me in a dream, and that's how usually something really inspires me. And yeah, I dream it and I can do it.
For missing your question.
Thanks, Kelly. That's my daughter.
I think it's great that you have to have that dream and that vision that comes to you to create this beauty. It looks like someone else has left a message. There's lots of nice messages here about what a wonderful job you did, sharing your passion and love, and just you're an inspiration to everyone watching, and you've had an incredible life of art and activism and leadership, and the work that you're doing around protecting the ceremonial spaces is really amazing and important work. And I think that all their comments speak to the gratitude they have for the work that you do, but also for the beauty that you bring into this world. So
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. And thank you for having me. I really enjoyed this evening. And that is one thing that I have been trying to do, and that is to get to the museum. So when it opens, I am definitely going to come up in person.
Yeah, we are back to only virtual. We went back after Thanksgiving because we had been open for small private tours from August to November. But in Rhode Island, unfortunately, as with the rest of the country, we're really spiking in not a good way. So we will keep our eyes open, and hopefully when we can get past the next few weeks, maybe things will improve again. If not, at least get past the winter. We shall see. It's a always changing scenery as we all adapt to COVID-19. So I thank you so much again for being our very last quarantine creative artist for 2020. Katavatash.
Thank you. I'm honored. I'm honored to have that distinction.
Good night.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.